Welcome back to another episode of the Know Your Power podcast. I am your host, Julia Renee.
And Kendall Aaliyah.
And today is episode who knows when or what of the Get Shredded series. And today we're going to talk about something that everybody wants to know. How to stop food cravings. I'm struggling today too, I'm going to be honest.
I arrived to the airport at like 1 a.m. last night, or technically this morning, and then had to drive like 45 minutes home. So I'm running on low fuel.
Yeah, I'm just tired because just
life,
prep and life. And it's my rest day. And I'm glad I didn't do cardio or anything this morning.
Yeah.
Because I forced myself not to on those days.
Good.
Where usually I would just do it on Wednesdays so I wouldn't have to do it like on a Saturday, but like switching it up has been so much better.
Yeah.
Because even though I have to do cardio on a Saturday, I just wake up early enough to do it so that like Zach and I can still hang out after. That's usually the reason why I don't want to do it.
Makes sense.
Is because I miss like being in bed on him on Saturday morning when he wakes up and his face is all smushy.
Zach's not in town right now, and I feel like you can tell.
I guess
Julia's missing him a little.
I love being home alone because I get into like this routine of everything being exactly the way that I want it without my boyfriend coming in and just trashing the place and like leaving dishes and stuff. And when he comes back, I'm like, well, that was fun. That lasted, what, 3 days?
That single life was nice for a day and a half.
I love him, but I love being alone so much that it doesn't really bother me.
I did notice I went on vacation with my boyfriend and his whole family, which was like amazing and fun.
Tired of him?
No, not of him, but we were doing so much all the time, and his whole family is very, I don't know if it's because like I'm newer to the family where they feel like they need to talk to me 24/7. But on that last day, I locked myself in the bedroom and I was like, I need 2 hours of like watching TikTok or YouTube where I'm just not having to like conversate with anyone or entertain anyone.
Okay, so that reminds me of something that happens a lot for me, like in the gym. Are you ever just having like such a bad day and you're so exhausted, like emotionally and physically, and you want to go to the gym, and it's one of those days where you don't want to be seen or talked to, and you want to pretend you're invisible, and you see that one person at the gym, and this is nothing against that person, like you love this person, but you see that one person at the gym that you know talks forever, and you literally avoid them like the plague, just because you're like, I love you, and I don't have the energy, and if I show up and talk to you, I'm gonna be like, so I'll literally like skirt
because I want to show up for people.
Exactly.
So then like not it, like again, love his family, this is not at that, but like anyone, same thing, like in the gym, it's not you talking to me, it's that I'm gonna feel the need to like use my little bit of energy I have to give it to you,
and I might not even have it.
Exactly.
So
we're in the same. Introverts unite.
Yes,
we need alone time sometimes.
Oh yeah, so this alone time this week has been great.
I can see it.
So we're going to talk about how to stop food cravings. You guys know, especially Kendall and I, if you've watched back to any of our just trigger warning, because we're going to talk about eating disorders real quick. I'll give you a little pause just in case. Okay, there you go.
I'm proud of us for giving trigger warnings.
Yeah.
Out. Like I used to just mindlessly be like, remember when I did this?
Yeah, remember when I was bulimic? It's like
it's not, it's,
Because we have gotten through all of these hard things, like it makes it so much easier for us to talk about it. So we apologize if we ever forget to do a trigger warning, because there's someone probably out there that's in the middle of it and doesn't want to hear something like that. And I've been there.
Also the fact like we're so far removed now that we can like crack jokes or make it seem lighthearted when really it is such a serious issue.
But this also lets them know at least that like you can get here too. Like you can potentially be looking at your past self and being like, oh, I'm not that girl anymore, which is really cool.
It's awesome.
So we're going to talk about how to stop your food cravings. We're going to go through tips, and I have a little bonus tip for you that's kind of funny. Number one is get enough fiber and protein. Both of these things are going to make you feel fuller for longer. You're going to be satiated, and protein also takes a lot longer to digest in your system. So your tummy will be fuller, and you won't have that much cravings.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I watched, it was Bikini in the Brain, and I trust him. So I didn't like go and research on my own, but he was talking about it is it is very likely, especially for competitors, to have like some sort of rebound where you're going to eat excess food after your show. You're super hungry. You're constantly having those like hunger cues in your brain, like you're going to give in to them. He said opt for protein. Not only does it keep you fuller longer, but it's the hardest of the macronutrients for your body to store as fat. So it's just better to have higher protein in your diet in general for like countless reasons.
Yeah, like literally this tip can probably be applied for almost everything. Like you want to build muscle, eat more protein. You want to stop cravings, eat more protein. You want to have better skin, eat more protein. I don't know. I just made that one up. But there is collagen, which has protein, which does good to your skin. So I got it. I found it. I went there. Another thing that we mentioned probably a couple podcasts ago was another reason why getting enough protein in is because it keeps you satiated for longer, but also that when you're eating the protein, eat it first, especially if you have a meal that's like surrounded around protein, then eat the protein first. So then you can get that initial hunger, very satiated, and then you can go for like your carbs or your veggies or whatever it might be. There is another thing that I was going to mention and I forgot. Oh, it's about swapping protein. So if you're getting into a point in your prep where you have protein powder as a meal and stuff like that, protein powder is great for those like quick moments for post-workout shakes where you need to get your protein in and you need to be satiated so that you don't like go off of your meal plan. But if you're feeling super hungry, I would swap your protein powder out for actual whole protein because the chewing of it is going to be so much better. It's going to sit in your tummy a little bit longer versus you drink a protein shake. I love that you say
tummy. I don't know. It's just cute.
Yeah. This is going to sit in your little tummy a little bit longer versus if you have like a liquid, obviously you're just going to pee it up.
I'm like always a eat your protein type of girl, but that's just like I have cravings constantly, especially when cutting, and that always helps me with it. I will say the only time I will opt for like a protein substitute while having cravings is like if I really need that chocolate fix, like having a chocolate protein powder is like a great option to like get both of these.
The only meal that I have throughout the day is my first meal that I actually use protein powder because it's a smoothie. And it's like I could have my smoothie and then I could have a side of like white fish for breakfast, but that
plain
would be
chicken
gross.
And a smoothie.
So that's the only meal that I have it, but my coach does have me have other options in my meal plan where I can have this or I can have that. I can have protein or I can have protein powder or I can have white fish, and my brain's functioning very well today. I always opt for the white fish just because I'm hungrier. So that's an option for you guys. Also fiber.
Yeah, fiber is important. Also look at, like, I would recommend tracking your fiber intake for at least one day to see where you're at, because there is being too high in fiber intake too. That can make you backed up and like have a lot of gut problems. Or if you are too low and you notice like, I don't know, my brain's not working.
It's okay.
I was like,
There's ways that you can track this. I know on MyFitnessPal, if you're doing macros, or if you just want to get a general idea and you don't necessarily want to track macros all the time, just use it for a day and see where your fiber is at. And there's fiber in so many things. Like there's fiber in beans, there's fiber in kale, there's fiber in tons of vegetables. There's a lot of fiber in things that you wouldn't think so. So tracking it just to see where your fiber's at. Also, there's the option that I do, instead of just tracking it, I just do a scoop of First Form's fiber in the morning. It's chocolate flavored, tastes really good. You can mix it in with your protein shake if you want to, and then it's like a one and done deal.
Perfect. I think the average person it doesn't intake enough fiber.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's very true. Okay, number 2 is replace instead of restrict. Okay, so it's totally normal to want candy, ice cream, pizza, but it's not always feasible for the goals that we have on the day-to-day. And what we can do is to find foods that we can replace instead of restrict and just not have anything and just raw dog, chicken and broccoli. So finding those fun foods, those fun food swaps that you can have in your dire time of need is perfect. If you want to listen to like a giant long list of ones that we did, go back after this episode and listen to what to eat to lose weight on the Getting Shredded series.
It was literally like 2 weeks ago.
We spent like 30 minutes just talking about swaps because Kendall and I love
and even watching that back, I was like, oh, I have so many more.
I know. And then I'm like, wait, that would have been like 2 hour long episode, but people have been tagging tagging me in their swaps that they've made since that episode.
Yes.
So it's really cool.
So many girls tag me in their popcorn creations.
Yeah,
and I'm
same.
like, yes.
I know. I'm like just waiting
You're
for
a
someone
weird pickles and popcorn lady.
And popcorn. But yeah, so some of those can include swapping your soda for sparkling water, for 0-calorie soda. One thing that I'm loving right now is the ice.
I drink those.
Those are my favorite. I think I like them more than any 0-calorie soda, like a 0-calorie root beer, 0-calorie like 7-Up or whatever.
You can tell they have less like syrup in them too, so like
Yeah.
less artificial sugars, because
Yes.
I do know like a lot of people are like anti-aspartame or even
Yes.
like anti-stevia, so those are a pretty good option compared to like 0-calorie sodas.
Yeah, I'm loving the ice ones so much. I always have on deck at my house 3 like options of 0-calorie something. So I'll have a 0 sugar root beer, and then I have, you know, my 0 sugar energy drinks if I need them, and then I have the ice brand. I'm really loving their coconut pineapple one right now.
I haven't tried that.
It's so good. I didn't think I was gonna like it because I don't really like pineapple flavored things, but I love coconut. It's my favorite. I buy
I'll
the
have to
whole
try it.
pack. And it only comes with like 3 in the other flavors, and then I just drink all of those, and then I have to drink
You
the
can
other ones.
donate the other ones to
No.
me if you'd like.
Yeah, but they're so good. So those are options. Instead of restricting yourself completely, opt for one of those things first to replace it with. And then at the end of the day, like if you're still craving the real thing, like actual chocolate, actual ice cream, go and have those in moderation. Now,
I don't know if you have it on the list, but also like having scheduled in like refeeds or having higher calorie like planned meals is like a great way too, where like
bonus tip, Kenny.
yeah. Like if you are craving that pizza really bad and maybe you don't want to have like a full on cheat meal, just have like a lower calorie version on your refeed day. It's a little higher carb. Use it for like a leg day, whatever it might be. Like that's another easy way to like at least give yourself the fix without going like all in.
That's what I do for off season for sure. When I'm on season, I can't have any cheat meals obviously because it's different. But when I'm in off season, I always have a day that I have my cheat meal, and it's fun. I call it a treat meal instead of a cheat meal because for me, cheat insinuates that you're doing something bad and you're not.
Agreed.
This is just my personal preference, and you're not doing something bad. You're just treating yourself to something after you've spent a hard, long week of being on track. So it's fun then too. You can go and have dinner with your friend. You can go and have like a whole experience with your partner, whatever it might be. It's super fun. It looks forward to it, but just remember, manage how much you're having in that time frame because at the end of the week, it's calories in versus calories out. So if you're going over on your calorie intake for the week on that cheat meal, you're going to erase all the progress that you spent so long doing on the week. So
I've had friends
be
eat
mindful.
like one of those full giant tubs of like Bluebell as like part of their cheat meal. And I'm like, get the pint. The pint,
I
great,
eat a
you
whole
get your
pint.
fix.
I'm a pint lady.
The gallon?
Yes.
That's a lot.
We literally have a gallon in our freezer right now
Really?
from Zach's birthday party because he literally had to, because his dad got in an accident, and so he had to fly out the next day after his birthday. So he didn't even get to eat his cake, and he didn't get to eat his ice cream because I always buy him ice cream with his cake. So I saved him one little piece of his cake, and his giant gallon-sized Bluebell tub is just sitting there staring at me every time I open the freezer. So yeah, anyways.
Willpower.
Yeah, willpower. Kenny, you do number 3 because I'm tired.
Make sure you're eating regularly. Should I read what your little points, or should I just go off my riff?
You can do whatever you want.
You don't want to get hangry.
You don't want to get hangry.
I will say this is something I'm bad at. I'll let myself get to that hangry point, and then when I do eat a normal sized meal for me, typically it doesn't feel like enough, and I stay hungry, and then I want to eat more, and then I go look in like the pantry or in the fridge, and I see what else I can have. You shouldn't let yourself get to that point. I love intermittent fasting, but you shouldn't be going to a point where you're like starving.
Yes. Because if you get to that point where you're starving, it's almost, we've all been there, where we feel like the only thing that can satiate us is something like a burger, fries, and drink, or like a giant pizza, because we're getting to that level of like starvation to where we really think that we need to have an excessive amount of food in order to curb it. But in reality, we could just have a regular meal that we should have had before, and it would have been fine. So don't get yourself to the point where you have to go there and you have to go past it. So carry snacks, protein bars, maybe even protein powder in a shaker bottle. So like obviously don't want to have protein powder like with the liquids sitting in your car.
Yeah,
so just
please.
protein
I've done
powder.
that.
Just have it. It's the worst.
Yeah, timing your meals is important. This is something my boyfriend, not to call him out, does often. He'll wait until like 3 p.m. and then he'll want to eat like the whole village.
Yes.
And I have to remind him, I'm like, eat this meal, wait. Like give yourself at least 30 minutes to like start to digest it to see if you really are still that hungry or if it's your mind just telling you you're like ravenous right now.
Exactly, because that's exactly what happens every time. You just get so starving. And this is like, for example, like when we go to the restaurants and stuff, and they bring out like bread or they bring out chips and something like that. And if you go to the restaurant and you're starving, you're going to fill up on those things first because you're starving and it's there. I've done it a million times.
And then you're still going to eat your meal.
And then you're still going to eat your meal. You might even have a drink on top of it, whatever it might be. So this is why bodybuilders eat every 2 to 3 hours because they want to make sure that they are satiated throughout the day. And it's called like grazing, to where they have like smaller portion meals.
That's how I love to eat anyway.
The day. Yeah.
I'm a grazer.
Every like 2 to 3 hours or so that they have energy and it's sustained throughout the day.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have those highs and lows of crashing where you have energy from your food and then you crash, and then energy from your food and crash. So avoid skipping meals and forgetting to eat.
Yeah, I've always
snacks.
told my clients to do that. It's also just good for your metabolism to like continuously run instead of like letting it crash and going through a phase where you have nothing in your system to work off of or burn.
Yeah, like a simple protein shake can hold you off for that period of time to where you don't get to that hangry level. And then once you get to the place you're going to eat or you're home, then you won't eat as much.
And you're more enjoyable to be around.
Yeah, that's a plus because no one wants to be around Julia when she's hungry.
Yep, none of us.
Which is me like the last 8 weeks of prep.
Yep.
Yeah. Number 4 is practice mindfulness when you're eating. So I want you to think back to a time where you're sitting on the couch, you're watching a movie, you're with your snuggle bus and your puppies, and you eat the whole bag of chips without even realizing it, and you look in the bag and you're like, oh my God, it's gone. This is because we're not being mindful when we're eating. We're mindlessly eating. And I've done this a million times. Kendall's probably done this a million times. The thing is that it takes our brain a bit to process if we're full. So if we're eating super quick and not being mindful with it, we're not giving our brain enough time to catch up with ourselves and let our body know, hey, I'm full. Hey, I'm satiated.
Especially,
and then you're like, hey, I'm stuffed. Oh my God, how did I get here?
If you're sitting or laying down, like our receptors literally can't tell like how full we are. I think it was my mom used to always be like, we would be eating dinner, right? Like out as a family. And I would like finish my meal and be like, I'm still hungry. Or typically it was my brother saying that. They're big dudes. And she'd be like, wait a minute, stand up and then see. And they would always be like, oh, you're right. Like I'm almost feel sick. And you don't even realize it because you're like just so tunnel vision on like sitting there and eating.
That's a really good point.
I know that you make fun of me for like even my little popcorn habits of like going, pouring a bowl, walking it back and sitting and eating it.
All the walking you're doing is letting you,
I mostly do it because if I bring the whole bag down, I know a habit of mine is to just like sit there and graze until I literally can't, until it's gone. And not even that I'm that hungry. I'm just, again, like mindlessly eating it versus if I'm getting up and I'm like, okay, I've had one bowl of popcorn. Okay, I am still hungry. I'm going to have like a second bowl of popcorn. Then at least you're like the tiniest bit more like mindful of how much you're eating.
Yeah. And especially the one thing that I think about too is if you're sitting down and you're like downstairs all comfy on your couch and you do get just a portion and you're like under the blanket,
like,
I'm so lazy that I'm like, I don't know if I want to get up. And this allows you to pause, which we'll talk about in our next tip. But before we get there, I wanted to talk about like the levels of hunger because we've talked about this in a couple episodes before. But level 1 is saying that you are absolutely starving. Level 10 is saying that you're stuffed. When we're eating, we want to be at around like a 7 to an 8-ish. We never want to be out of 10. So when you're eating, check in with your body frequently and ask yourself, am I at a 1, which is starving, or am I at a 10, which is stuffed? I want to be a 7 or an 8, and be mindful when you're eating and you're chewing and swallowing so that you can actually have that connection with your body and you don't overeat. I'm sweating.
Agreed.
What am I not?
Also, I feel like an easy one for that is like a lot of people who are trying to be more mindful stop watching TV or like a YouTube video or something while they're eating. That way you're like fully present. I think in prep, I always do that. When I'm like casually cutting weight or in an off season, I don't pay as much attention. But in prep, like I would sit down with my meal, watch something and it'd be gone before I even realized and like got a chance to enjoy it. So I tried to go like no TV for a little bit to see if that helped.
Yeah,
and it does.
Because then all you have to do is eat.
Yeah.
You don't have to like pay attention. You don't have to listen.
Yeah.
And you just eat.
Yeah.
Which
you turn eating into an activity.
It's an activity. So last before bonus tip, number 5 is riding the craving wave. So what this means is like when your craving comes, it usually hits you hard and it usually hits fast. And what happens is that we react to that initial feeling and craving and that anxiety. And when it happens, instead of riding the wave, I want you to look at it kind of like this. Like this is what riding the wave means. So if you're on YouTube, you can see my little visuals, but what happens is it's kind of like, imagine just a wave that's like coming up and getting ready to crash. So the wave is coming up and that's your craving and it starts to feel like really intense and you immediately like panic because the wave is so big and it's at the top and you go and like start looking for food. Maybe you start going on your app to order DoorDash. And the thing is that if we just let that feeling subside and the wave crash down to the shore, then we actually would realize that we weren't as hungry as we thought we were. Because we react immediately when we feel a craving, this is why we end up eating something that we actually didn't want. So I want you to just give it time to let that subside. Just give it like 5 minutes, maybe just sit your butt down on the couch and don't move for 5 minutes. I always like pretend that the floor is lava and I just like sit there and I don't move because I know that if I react immediately to this craving, then I'm going to regret it later because I didn't give myself time to actually think about it. And look, and at the end of this process, if you still want something, then go get it. But give your body that pause. We do not pause as humans. We react so much. I do this all the time when I would binge. I would just react instead of let myself ride the wave. So yeah. One example for me, weirdly, is that I was driving one time and I was on prep and I had a real urge with craving. I got like hot. I was getting anxious because I was like, oh my God. And I really just told myself, keep driving, just keep driving. Because I was driving to like Houston or something. And I said, just keep driving. And I drove for like 5 minutes. I was distracted with my podcast, like whatever. I was focused on driving. And then I realized like 5 minutes went by and that panic I had went away.
Yeah.
And I didn't want the thing that I actually thought I wanted.
Yeah.
So just giving it time, ride that craving wave, let it crash, and see how you feel after
When
that.
I'm cutting, I get a lot of those cravings while I'm like actively grocery shopping or like at a gas station because it's all like displayed right in front of you and you're like, oh, those Sour Patch Kids are literally right next to the checkout. Like it would be so easy. I for sure notice every time I'm like, no, like, do I really need it or do I really want it? No. And like skip it. By the time I get home, I'm like, oh, I'm like glad I didn't get those.
Exactly.
Like I know I would have like had all of them in like 0.2 seconds, not even enjoyed it. And then, had that like, oh, well, why did I do that?
Yeah, because then you're eating them when you're in that really heightened state. And then it's like the bag of chips thing where you're just eating it and it's like, oh crap, it's gone.
Yeah.
So all of that happened in such a small period of time because we didn't take a moment to pause. You have the craving, you buy the thing, you can get the thing, you eat it without any intention, mindlessly, and then you're left with feeling shame, guilt, all these things. So just ride the wave, it'll pass.
It'll pass.
And if it doesn't, and you're still like, your body really needs the thing, then go have that thing. There's nothing wrong with it.
Another thing to add is a lot of the times cravings have to do with like lack of like certain vitamins and minerals.
Or emotions.
Yeah. So if there's anything you could target that isn't like what the food you're craving is, I would target those first for sure, because that will help like actually subside the cravings in your brain and you won't even have to like go the food route of trying to tame them.
That is very true.
Yeah.
And on the point of like emotions, a lot of times when we have these food cravings, they are attached to certain emotions. Maybe it's loneliness, maybe it's sadness, maybe it's anger, maybe you just got like an upsetting phone call or a text message or something, and your heightened state makes you want to go and eat because that's a pattern that you do. That's what I do when I'm feeling, because in my brain, I'm thinking that the food is going to provide me some sort of comfort, and it might temporarily, but at the end, I'm still left with the feeling of whatever that text said, or the anger, or the disappointment, or loneliness. So Yeah, just think about like, what am I actually feeling right now?
Yeah.
Maybe there's something that this is attached to, and maybe we need to work on that area while we're riding that wave out too. So,
agreed.
bonus tip: brush your teeth.
I've heard this. I think Kerrigan said this one.
Yeah.
Either like on her story or on our podcast. Just at some point, I remember hearing this.
Yeah. I love brushing my teeth, especially after my last meal of the day is done, because usually we brush our teeth right before bed. But what I'll do is I'll eat my last meal and then I like go and hang out with Zach and we watch a little bit of TV for the night. So if you brush your teeth right after that, you're less inclined to go and like ruin that. And also you have like a minty freshness in your mouth, and it almost feels weird to eat anything after that. So it's just a weird little tip, but it works for me.
I do actively do that one.
Yeah.
Like even now I'll notice like if I am in like such a snacking mood, I'll like have a snack, and then when I like go back for another, I'm like, I should really just brush my teeth and like get ready for bed.
And then you're just like, I'm putting myself to bed. Right
because
now.
I stay up really late sometimes. So like around that 1 a.m. mark when you're like, well, why not just sit down with like popcorn right now? And it's like, you're ready for bed. Like come on now.
It's already the next day. Just stop.
And then I have another tip, and this one is not mentally healthy, just saying that, but neither is bodybuilding as a whole sometimes. And this I would do all the time as a competitor. Going to sleep. I would just go to sleep. If I was like really hungry midday and I knew I didn't have another meal for like a couple of hours, I would take a nap. And then
because you're just spend that time. Like if you don't have a hold on how you're feeling during that time, it's so hard, especially when you're on prep, to just like be awake and like battle your brain. So just like go nights.
I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment my last prep, and like the kitchen and my bedroom were so close that like if I was sitting in the living room, it's open to the kitchen. So I was like constantly thinking of it. So I would just like go lay in bed instead. Like that would just distract me. Especially, I'm not saying like your whole entire prep, you should just be like forcing yourself to sleep. But those last few weeks when things get real tough and your calories are really low, I would definitely just go to sleep.
I never take naps, but when I get that close, I take a lot of naps.
Yep, a lot of naps at that point.
Well, let us know y'all's craving stoppers. DM us, comment down below if you're on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, go follow YouTube so you can see our beautiful faces in person. But yeah, let us know yours so that we can add them to our little list. And obviously it's, if you have fun foods off plan, and there's no reason, there's the purpose of this episode is not to have anybody feel any type of way about eating off plan. It's just how can we have like little tips and tricks and things that we can do so that we don't get to that point all the time. We are human. It's okay to eat things that are fun foods. That's what life is about. You can't be a freaking robot year round. I do not prep year round. So just know that we're not at all telling people not to have any of these things. It's just when we have goals, let's try and use some of these tips so that we can go for them first. For sure. Before we just eat
also, cravings are super normal.
Especially if you're a woman. It's annoying. Like every single month.
Hormonal cravings and imbalanced cravings, emotional cravings. Like they're very normal. And these are just tools to kind of like help if you really are trying to push past that craving boundary. Sometimes you got to give in.
Because sometimes we don't even push past the cravings. We don't even practice that at all. We just immediately go to the craving. So this gives you an opportunity to practice pausing in your life, and it can flow into other aspects of your life as well. So
discipline.
This is a good episode for me too, because I'm getting to that point where I'm getting real hungry. So I hope you guys enjoyed. We love you all so much, and you're more powerful than you think.
Bye.
Bye.